That's not in the budget, we have to raise the money.
Yeah.
Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's presentation. As why everyone is here, is we're here to discuss the Great White Oak Park, which is formerly known as Pleasureland and Melrose Park, over behind ShopRite in Portobello's. This is the first of 2 town hall meetings where we're going to discuss our plans of what we can do to build a passive recreation facility to support the town of Oakland. Before we get started, I want to put a few thanks out to everyone who's helping us have this tonight. First, I want to thank the mayor and council for allowing us to present it in December, approving us to get the next step and have these town hall meetings. Secondly, I want to thank the Oakland Television Committee for allowing us to use this room and for filming this on local channels tonight. Also, I would thank the Environmental Committee for their joint effort with the Recreation Committee to get this project moving forward. Tonight, we also want to thank the people on the committee who are driving the Pleasureland Committee. We have Mike Guadagnino, who is the chair. We have Councilman Visconti, Marco Stopchak, and myself, Steve Saliani. Our goal here tonight is very simple. It's to lay out a long-term, short-term, intermediate plan for how we can make this land, which is basically barren and not being used by the town, into a very useful passive recreation park, which will benefit the community for several different options. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Guadagnino, who'll be walking you through the presentation. After Mr. Guadagnino is done, we will have an open session for the town to give us any questions or concerns they want to raise, and we look forward to presenting to you tonight.
Thanks, Steve. Before we start, also a couple of people I'd like to mention who are here in the audience. We have Ryan, who's working with the dog park aspect of it. We have our skateboarders over there, who are looking forward to hopefully working with the skateboard aspect. We have 2 former owners, Joe Marimarco, who owned in the 60s and the 70s, I believe, and Mike Terrasigny, who owned it in the 70s and the 80s, I believe. Okay, in the 80s, okay. So we get asked a lot of different questions from everybody at the end, but I'd like to kind of bring us through what we are looking to do, as Steve mentioned, as a passive recreation area. Before we begin, it's important to understand the property itself. Now, the property, we'll start with this chart right here. As landmarks, this is Doty Road right here. Here's the river. We have ShopRite 202 over here. Portobello's in the corner. So the property consists of this area here, the bowling alley back there, and in there, the Pleasureland area and the Melrose Park area. Everything in blue is floodplain, which absolutely limits development. Going through it is a C1 stream, which too is very protected, and also limits the amount of development that we can do. So we're going to start with that aspect and see what we can do to bring our ideas into this. Again, before we start, I also want to mention too that we're looking to do this with no taxpayer dollars. We're looking to do some grants, fundraising. The kids already asked me how to fundraise, donations. We're not looking to do this through taxpayer dollars. That's a very important aspect. As Steve mentioned, we're talking short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals. Short-term goal is basically what do we need to do to get the park open first. We're going to have a PowerPoint presentation, but we don't have a projector, so we have to use old school. Short-term, first thing, no matter what, is protect the environment. There's environmental commissioners here. We have Lee Heyman back there, the chairman of the Environmental Commission. They won't let me do anything to the environment. And I wouldn't want to do anything anyhow to the environment. So we must protect the environment. Starting off first, we must safeguard the C1 stream. This stream in here is extremely protected. It can raise trout, I believe. It's clear water, it's clear cold water. We're going to do everything in our power to protect the stream. Over on the Pleasureland side, there are high fences. I don't know which one of you guys are responsible for it, but it's a great idea. It's a high fence. It's already in there. The stream itself, there's a bridge that takes you in. when you come into the Motors Park area, there is a driveway there. Stream goes under a bridge. Stream goes underneath by this old pool, and the stream begins to split right after the pool. Doesn't so, I wouldn't say it's split, it more overflows. I showed the last meeting, the 1979 aerial view. That stream at one time was nice and straight and ran right through the end of Oakland right here, right out to the river. The stream splits. We have to find out why it's splitting. From what I've done, it's a little bit of reconnaissance. It appears that there's a lot of debris around these pipes that the river does, that the stream goes through, as well as down trees. 20-some-odd years of neglect has created some damming of that stream. So we need to kind of see what we need. I know the Environmental Commission feels we need to obviously go to DEP. Whatever we need to do to protect the stream, we will do. But I don't think it's even healthy for the stream itself to have the split. So what happens is it splits and it kind of just floods this area here, catches back up, and then dumps back in around this area here. So we need to kind of do a little further investigating on what we need to do to fix this particular stream and make sure it's safe. There are two bridges presently over the bridge, one approximately here and one approximately right here. This one right here is big enough and seems to be strong enough for cars, though I'm not an engineer, and obviously we have to make sure it's engineeringly safe. The other one over here is good for walking. The problem is, on the other side of those bridges is this spillover. So again, we need to either look into fixing the stream if it's possible, or creating another bridge to allow us to walk or drive over the stream. The next aspect that we need to get this thing in the short term, to get it to be usable, is we need to clean up a lot of the brush. There were a lot of invasive sticker bushes. Anybody's walking, there were sticker bushes everywhere. This is nothing that is environmentally important. It's just basically, it's an invasive species of a plant that if we clean them out, we can be able to allow a lot of walking paths, a nice walking path along the river here. If anybody's gone to the, I know on the recreation website, but I have the plan that we laid out in December, and there are some pictures of this incredible view of this water right here. So we're looking to clean up the sticker bushes and clean up a lot of the brush, and it would open up a lot of that trail. Next aspect is parking. Can't have people park on 202. I don't think everybody's going to park on Doty, and I don't think ShopRite's going to be happy with the parking there. There are over 200 parking spots on the Motors Park side here, and there's more parking on the Pleasureland side. The driveway in the Motors Park is not safe to drive cars on. I mean, I've been in there with the DPW and their trucks. Everybody doesn't have big trucks. If people want to go in there and walk their dog or take a nice nature walk, they really can't. They'll be making a mess of their car. So we need to fix the driveway here. What we'd have to do is either remill it, break it up, clean it up, and remill it, and put something else down. We can, from my understanding, speaking with Boswell Engineering, we can lay new pavement down, as long as we stay within the boundaries what was there prior. We don't need to, we're not going to go past it. Councilman Visconti brought up an excellent point. We can use like a corrugated, like a hard plastic, goes down and allows grass or whatever to come up from underneath it, and it's a nice hard surface you can drive on, and it appears to be very environmentally safe. So we need to get the parking on that side. Parking on the Pleasureland side actually is a little bit of an easier issue. The Doty Road, if I hear, and the drive down is a nice driveway. It's obviously blocked off for the time being, but the roadways are still there from back in the day, and they're still pretty clear. Now, I believe in the past, correct me guys if I'm wrong, cars used to park on the lawn, correct?
Yeah.
See, and Boswell explained DEP will allow us to return to park in the grass, because Joe, you had a lot of pictures of buses and cars, which I have.
Yeah.
As long as we show proof that cars have parked there one time, we can go right back there. Go ahead, Mike. Oh, we got a microphone? Go ahead, Mike.
My name is Mike Torsini. In that back field also, Mike, okay?
Here?
When you went down that road, okay, where it bends,
Yeah, right
okay, right in there, we used that for overflow parking also. You were able to park in there if you had overflow.
Okay.
So we used to pack it, when it would get crowded, we would use the roadway and then pack them into those areas in the back.
Okay, yeah, and that's an option that's not, when I spoke with Boswell, this is going to be a difficult option. You're not talking about construction, but getting the permits and getting the permission to allow parking there. So,
Cars have been parking in that area and even across by the bridge, by where the bar was, from the 50s.
oh,
Oh, I
say that
don't.
again, Joe?
Joe Warren Marco, my father was a previous owner before Mike's family, everybody took it over. Well, we took it first, but that was all parking everywhere. You could park on the left side of Doty Road, along the river there, right over there by the bar, and you know, everywhere in the grass in the whole park. And then, actually, I think that the property there is not really, it was floodplain, but I don't think it has flooded ever since they've done the bridge work on,
It's in the below,
yeah.
where,
Have we ever had water there? Has it been overflowed? Like,
Councilman, do you know, or Environment League,
like
you
when
know?
I was a kid,
It's
when I was a
designated
kid.
as a floodplain, so
Yeah.
unfortunately, you'd have to change the DEP maps.
You
But
would
the
have to.
DEP maps have identified that as floodplain, so we have to live with those constraints.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking to stay within this. The point is that we were able to park on the lawn at the time.
Right.
We can prove it was done in the past.
Yeah.
We should
Yeah.
be able to have permission for that. So, and then the ultimate goal, to take these two roads and join them.
Mike, can you ask people to raise their hand and wait for the microphone, because else we don't hear them?
I don't have to.
Please, everybody, all right? If you want to ask a question or want to talk, raise your hand, they'll bring the mic over, you can talk.
Everybody,
we
Fred
can
Burks.
pick it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
We add that up.
Okay. Again, we're talking about the roadway. And the eventual goal is to join them. If we can fix the stream and everything flows, the bridge is already there. If we can't fix the stream, we have to put on the bridge there. We have to go through DEP permits and allow for it. Because eventually, the short-term goal is we can allow cars in and then cars out, cars in and cars out. Spoke with the police officers and Chief Casper, and they felt that the issue was, the mayor brought up at one time, making a left-hand turn here. They felt we can change traffic patterns. You know how you go around the Burger King there? We can allow, I think it's Plaza Road, I think it's called. We can allow cars to kind of come out and go around that way. So this short term, we allow cars in here, cars in this way, and this is even shorter. And eventually, we can connect the two and allow cars in and then out, go scope all the way around. So again, the short term, to get the park open, protecting the environment, want to safeguard that stream, this stuff's number one. Once we clean up the brush, we can allow for a lot of different walking paths. I mean, there's 40 acres here. And on the chart, the chart only has a couple of like main arteries. If you walk in, there's so many arteries and there's so many little branches of walking paths. If you get these sticker bushes out of the way, I mean, you can walk there you get a lot of fun there. It'd be a nice time walking there. And again, the parking, getting people to park. This is short term. This is what we need to say, all right, let's get it going, let's get the park open. Next point would be the intermediate steps. These are all the toys, all the fun stuff that we can work on and develop to eventually do. And how long they take, it depends on how long we can raise the funds, we can get the grants on it. First is park benches. This is an easy fix. What I hope to do is to have a map. And on the map, have letter A, B, C, D, E, all around Z. What it will allow people to do is to, say, go on a website. Say we use a sports association website or another website like that. People can say, I want to buy bench A. So they make a donation for bench A. And on that, you can put a plate, donated by Steve Saliani's family. And they can purchase, put a donation down for bench. And every 5, 10 or so benches we purchase, and wherever they purchase, wherever the locations they purchase it, we buy them, put them out there, and we can start putting benches out there. All strictly from donations. I spoke to a lot of the older Pleasureland people who work there and grew up there. They all want a bench. So I'm going to be counting on them. So that's an aspect for benches. That's an easy thing, especially around the tree. There's a great white oak tree there, which we did some video with Jim around that tree. We can put a couple of benches around that area right there as a starting point for the park.
A tree 200 years old. It's massive. It's awesome to see. It's
a great
very
white
nice
oak.
picnic area. Really would.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we named the park after. If anyone hasn't realized that yet.
Yeah. Next thing, the Great Lawn. This Great Lawn has pretty much created the most. I talked to a lot of people in ShopRite and everywhere. These people like the idea, even tonight. They like the Great Lawn. They like the idea of putting a band shell here. This area right here is where it would be. This is not in the floodplain here, 2 acres, used to be Mowers Park, used to be the area of Mowers Farm. This area right here is not a wooded area. As you can see, it's got the tracks. It used to be something like a dirt bike track or something along those lines. There's a lot of high grass. Of course, sticker bushes are everywhere. There are some trees. It's basically it's not woods. It's just an open area with just a mess. We can return it back to its original, what it originally was, which is a great lawn, a flat lawn surface. And we could have, again, I use the example of Central Park. People can come there and they could throw a frisbee. They could have a picnic. Came up with some other ideas with it. People have weddings there. I mean, you can have local bands. I've heard from the kids, they want their bands there. So some people aren't kids. Some of the bands there. Hold on a second. Joe, wait. We need a microphone. Our Fred's going to come out again.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I raised my hand. Thank you. Also, too, like in Pompton Lakes, the Terry Park, right? You used to drive down there. They had a gazebo down there. People would go down there and take pictures. You know, so you could do the same thing over here, you know. People wanted to come down for, you know, the afternoon. Even if they have to get a permit or something like that, if they have to do it, I don't know how the town would want to do that. You know, to do picture taking or, you know, something for a wedding or, you know, so which is a good idea.
Good, Mike.
You know.
They tell the old owners love this place.
And Portobello is excited about it too, because they're hoping that you put some kind of bridge across there so they can let their wedding parties go across there and take some pictures.
Oh, that'd be great too. Yeah, again, we have weddings in there. We could, town bands, the kids, the older band, people who are older have bands, drama clubs. The Patch Academy is saying the poetry groups, dance groups. Again, we can rent it out for weddings, and we can rent it out for other bands. Mr. Monaco had mentioned the doo-wop show. So there's a lot of that can happen, and this has garnered, actually, what I've heard, people come to me, and I've spoken to a lot of people since the December presentation. This seems to create a lot of excitement from all different age groups up and down the line. Next toy, skate park. There's a couple here that are like the skate park idea. The pool is here. This does not show the full size of the pool because there is some dirt that has fallen into it. The pool is quite large. Speaking with Boswell, they felt that because it is already a non-permeable surface, we can build on top of it. So we clean up the pool itself, and the idea was of a skate park. And unfortunately, the kids have no place to skate. And this would give them a location. They wouldn't be skating with a Chase. You guys get Chase out of a hardware store. We can go down the list. But we actually have a spot for the skateboard park. And funny story is, when we first used to go to this park, I used to go there, and we went there a couple times, and the kids would run and hide. And then I finally got a hold of them. I said, "Why'd you guys run from me?" Yeah, they would just run in and hide. But yeah, no, we want to help. We want to do this. This is there's a lot of enthusiasm for this. Again, something that we work on, grants, fundraising, and other ideas. And again, because it's a hard permeable surface, we'll stay within the guidelines. I have the joint insurance fund to insurance our town went to Rich, gave me what is required in the building, but I actually already gave them, and said, we got to follow this to a T. And that's another idea to do that. Dog park. I think we've heard about that for the past 6 years.
4, almost 5 years.
It feels like 6.
It feels like it's been a lot longer.
Ryan has been working on the dog park for
Since 8th grade.
since 8th grade, for quite a few years. And we may have a location right back here. It's in the buffer for 300 foot buffer area here, but we will go for permits. Basically, the only permanent structure we're talking about is the fencing. And again, I got from the GIF what is required, what is needed to put a dog park in this town. And we will follow everything, insurance to a T. Any other new ideas that we come up with, which I'll talk about next, can be also added as some of the intermediate plans. Garden, we talked about the garden. I overheard you talk about the garden before. These old pools are not here anymore in the Pleasureland area. This is pretty much like a deck, more or less. It's like a dirt deck. We can create a garden all around here. I spoke with the president of the garden club over last summer, and She gave me some ideas, and I gave her some ideas. People have mentioned maybe we do it as a community park. As long as there's a nice garden there, it doesn't matter where it comes from or how it comes, it would be a very nice spot for it. Put a lot of color. And we've been talking about getting some kind of a sprinkler system, kind of like they use in Florida, where we suck the water out of the river and sprinkle it around the flowers to water it. Picnic tables. And that area I mentioned as a dirt deck. You can line up picnic tables back and forth. I mentioned, I think in December, we can put like chessboards, checkerboards. People can come down and play games there, have picnics, enjoy a nice day. This would be a nice area for that. And last thing is the history. As you tell from these two folks here, there's a lot of history here. And if you walk the area, there are old playgrounds, there's old swing sets, floors to the first aid room. I mean, there's just a lot of history. I don't want to touch that. I mean, one of the worst things that happens, in my opinion, people I spoke to ideas, their opinion too, is when you just destroy history. And there is history. There is, again, we talk about, there is that history that happened August 4th, 1985, and it wasn't Pleasureland, it was Mellors Park, as everybody reminds me. And we know the area location of that, and to memorialize that, we even talked about maybe putting a rock and some kind of plaque there to memorialize that spot where that was. It's all history. It's fresh, and it's 20-something years, and we're talking about starting something here that in 50 years, 100 years, it's going to be, right, it's just basically the history of the area. So we want to keep all this history alive. Maybe we could, in these different areas, put like a wooden sign, and next to the swing, maybe a picture of what the swing looked like. Or the floor, that first aid room floor. I mean, Joe had a lot of stories. You both have a lot of stories about it. Yeah, no, record about it. But we could put a picture of it, maybe a little bit of what it was, what it meant. And even on the Mellors Park side here. So there's a lot of history there. So basically, again, the first part, short term, was to get it started. Intermediate are the fun things, the toys that we can build. You know, and as first opens up, it could be a sign. You know, skate park coming in April, dog park coming May, this coming in a year, this coming. And just the intermediate stuff, just the stuff, the fun that we could have within the park itself. Last part is the long term. I didn't put much in here, but it's an ever-evolving park. Anybody's been to the rec field? When I came onto the Recreation Commission in 2006, the rec field from then till now has completely evolved. From 2006, before that I'm sure it has evolved. And there's a gentleman by the name of Peter Emmons, who I believe still lives in town, who posts pictures all the time of the rec field of the 60s. You wouldn't recognize it. We have a unique opportunity right now of taking something, a park, and starting it from fresh. And just turning it over as there's new mayor and councils, there's new commissioners. For the next generations develop what they want on this property. If they want to develop, or if they don't want to develop it. But we are starting with something fresh and letting it evolve in the long term. Just taking it and turning it over to the town and let the next generation to take control of it. Go ahead, you can go.
I just want to, as we're getting to the end here, I want to reiterate, this from the beginning, I think our first meeting on this was 18 months ago for this
Almost,
commission.
yeah.
About 18 months ago for this committee. And from there, for us, it feels like longer. But we've come across, we've sat with engineers, we've sat in environmental committee. So even though we're just presenting to the public the first time, there's a lot of people put a lot of effort into this. So we're really, we really appreciate this opportunity. And the vision that Mike's laid out with the committee has been very, very detailed, very unique. And if we can incorporate the dog park, which is 6 years in the waiting, you said, and the skate park, which I'm sure the store in town will love, moving them off their shop, I think is a very good, very healthy idea for the town.
Thanks. Yeah, Lee and I met in Elm Street, a place for great ideas to take place. And we started from there. There were some emails sent to me, people with different ideas, some blog posts, I want to answer every question. I do not want to ignore anybody. I want to answer every question. I think the committee wants to answer every question head on. So here's some different ideas that were brought to me, and I'll discuss each one at a time, and what may be a good idea, what may not be a good idea. The pool. The pool, there has been some interest in the pool, and there has been some disinterest in the pool. If we were to do the pool, put in a municipal pool, we are dealing with the 300-foot buffer zone. The only area to put it in would be in place of a great lawn. I've estimated, I've got some estimates, it would cost about $300,000 to put it in, which actually, if we're gonna go big grants and fundraising, that really isn't the problem, it just would take whatever it took. Problem, as I see it with the pool, is that it's a $50,000 to $100,000 a year cost. You guys, it costs a lot, right, to run the pool? So I'm just, but I don't want to, if we do it, it will be, $50,000 to $100,000 a year. Anybody who has a pool knows first couple of years of the pool, everything's great. Then a pipe breaks, then this breaks, and that breaks. That's $50,000 the first couple of years, and I assume $100,000 as you go along. Just keep that in mind. If that's the way the town wants to go, I just want to answer every question head on. Next thing that was brought up was a rec center. A rec center for kids. I'm sure the kids would like having a place to hang out with video games, pool, ping pong, whatever it is they want, a place for them to hang out. It's one thing I think the mayor's even told me too, an issue is that people say there's nothing really for teens. That's what we're trying to do, we're trying to do some things for teens. I actually like the idea of a rec center. The only place to put it on this particular would be back in the, back in place of or in the area of the Great Lawn. The issues with the rec center there is no infrastructure, there's no septic, there's no, we get electric, but there's no infrastructure for it. Plus, I don't really know, as a parent, we want teens to have access to 40 acres at night, walking around here. No offense, guys. But, here's the big but. And again, I like the rec center. We can do this at the rec field. We can use the old rec stand and either knock it down or expand it or whatnot. If people really want to have a rec center, there really is an interest for a rec center, contact me. We can do this on a separate plane. We can do this on the potash field. There's parking there, there's septic there, there's lights there. There aren't 40 acres for people to meander around. And so if there really is interest for this isn't the location for it. Let's go back to the rec field. Just contact me. Email me or call me or whatever. Compost. Someone mentioned they want putting a compost. I don't know the correct term for it, but making compost. I don't really know if we want to put make compost in a park like this. My understanding, there are odors. You can attract animals. I believe they still have the compost area up on Skyline Drive. Do they still have it there? Yeah. So although I don't want to discredit anybody's idea, but it's just this. Not to me, my personal opinion. Unless the town wants it, it's not really the place to make compost. Tree farm. Tree farm is in our original plan. And we went to the Shade Tree Commission, and they would like a tree farm. They don't want a tree farm here. The lack of water was an issue. The abundance of people may be an issue. They'd like to have it in a more secluded area. If they come back later on and say, you know what, this is a tree farm, do we have enough water for this? We could always put it in. But for the time being, we're going to leave it out. Unless Shade Tree comes back and they like it again. Boat or fishing dock. This, we actually have in our plan 2 docks. One here, and one here. And for either boating, fishing, whatever type to use the river. We met with Boswell back in November. They felt that this would not get approved by DEP no matter what we did because of fear of floods knocking these things into people's backyards or hitting someone or causing kind of damage. So we will still put them in. We're still going to go forward with asking for permits and doing what we can do. They weren't too. Boswell was not too enthusiastic, thinking we get this. BMX park, which is a great idea. I spoke with those involved with the BMX park. I mean, there's a lot of room here. We could actually do the BMX park. I was thinking this spot here. Those who were interested in the BMX park told me they don't need anything. I don't know what not needing anything means, but I asked them to please just put down anything, whether it's a tree, whatever it is. If they don't, and then once we get, it is in the floodplain, so once they give me the list of things, I'm going to go either Mark or Lee and say, is this going to pass, is this going to fly? If it's not going to fly, it won't fly. If it does work, then we'll add it to the list. This will be something new that can be moved into the intermediate stage. And I believe that's the end of the presentation.
Does anyone know that Boswell's an engineer?
Oh, Boswell's is a borough engineer. Yeah, we didn't know that. Mike.
Mike, I have another question.
Sure.
Where you were talking about the fishing dock. Now, the property that's opposite the entrance to the Pleasureland property, the Doty Road, okay, where the bar once stood, that property is yours also, isn't it?
I'm not sure, do you know, Chris, or?
Yeah, that was pleasure.
That was pleasure land, and so was the property from the roadway to the road that goes there now, was our property also, which went as far back as, I believe, Joe, you'll correct me, to the Elks Club.
Yeah, used to go all the way back there. At least that's what I remember.
Plus, there was a couple of houses, they were sold, but
Yeah,
that
I'm not
property
sure
on the
who owns
other
that
side
now.
might be a good place for your dock. You know? Just a
Let's
thought.
look, yeah, that is a good idea, we have to
Sure we
look
own
and
the
see who owns the property, yeah. See who
I think
actually owns the
you
property.
guys-
It's your property, I bet.
Yeah, on the left side where the bar was.
Right here, yeah, the bar was right here, bar has been raised.
Yeah, on the left.
The wall is still there, that wall is still there.
Right, well, that was the old, you remember the old pictures of Pleasure Land where they had this,
Yes.
that was, there was a raft out there, and there was also a rope with a ring on it that people used to jump off into the river. And there was a swimming area, there was a curved concrete wall, and there was steps going down into the river there. And on the other side of Doty Road, there was a dock there, on the other side of the bridge. When I was a kid, that was always there. And it wasn't a big dock, it was probably maybe, I would say, 10 feet by maybe 4 or 5 feet out. And my father used to rent boats, so he used to tie all the boats up there. And that's where they would stay, and people would come and rent the boats, and they'd get in them, and they'd, paddle down the river with, just oars, that's all they had. And that dock stayed there for I don't know how many years. And I remember we used to take the rope and catch the picnic tables at the floods off the bridge and catch them. Because my father didn't want to lose them because you had to build new.
I think it's the DEP is talking about.
Huh?
I think that's what the DEP is talking about.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, but that was years ago. So I never seen water there again like that. I mean, But the cement ones that we saw over there at Sandy Beach were nice, right?
Yeah, that's a nice,
Yeah. Those were solid, they're not gonna go anywhere. So. And one other thing I wanted to also say too is, what about a handicapped area for people to fish? Now, I fish up at the Ken Lockwood Gorge on the South Branch of Raritan, and they have a ramp that you can go out, and somebody can fly fish off that area.
See like a dock?
It's not really a dock, it's probably about maybe 6 or 7, maybe 8 feet up off the river. And it's all concrete and wood and everything like that, and it's just a ramp, people can sit there. And if somebody with a wheelchair wants to fly fish or whatever, or just go up there and sit there, they can do that. So they should really have something over here for handicap, because that's an important thing for people,
I completely agree.
Yeah,
That's when you need a lot of input.
Yeah, so that's something that could be good,
Getting that there.
so. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or? Gentlemen.
How you doing, Chopper Russo? Got a question. I know you're talking about the flood zone, the DEP. Isn't this also in the Highlands Preservation area?
I believe so. Legally.
So that would be added bureaucracy. So these things that you want to do, and I'm all for it. You're talking years, just based on my own personal experience here in town dealing with just the Highlands people alone. I mean, I see the mayor's here and Chris is here. Will we get, we get a special pass because it's town property, or we have to go through a procedure like a private individual would?
Hi, Chris Visconti. And sitting down with Boswell Engineering, Rebecca, who's the borough engineer, basically told us that anything that was existing, like a roadway, a parking lot, even the bridges, you really don't have to get permits to, do anything. So if we have a road that's 15 feet wide, and we're repaving it to be 15 feet wide, there's nothing to do. And I think as Mike had pointed out earlier, some of the issues with the bridges and the C1 stream are a little bit more difficult, but not impossible to work with. But if you look at the way the project's phased, the idea is to get the thing open as quickly as possible, using the facilities that are there. And that's, low impact, once again, coming up with ideas that are gonna translate into getting the thing open as quickly as possible. The intermediate, the long term, yeah, maybe there'll be permits that'll be required, but, I think Mike has sketched out a pretty good plan. So.
Well, in regards to anything that you build, the band shell or even the skate park, those probably need to be approved. It's just extra levels of bureaucracy, I'm just saying, these plans are great, and like Chris says, anything that's pre-existing, of an impervious surface, you can repair it. You know, it's grandfathered in prior to the act in 2003, whenever McGreevy did it.
Just to add, the skate park we put on already, the pool, so it's already there. The band shell and the Great Lawn, that area right there is not in the floodplain. And there's an area there too that's not even
But excuse me,
300.
it's still Highlands. That whole area is still Highlands.
I have to defer to
Yeah.
the environmental commissioners for that, yeah.
Listen, I'm all for this. I'm just warning you, because
It
personally,
is, yeah.
the Highlands, on the deal I did on Rampo Valley Road, it added 18 months to it just to get a rubber stamp when there was pre-existing 98% of the property was impervious surface. You know, that's all.
Okay.
I'm
I
all
appreciate
for it.
that.
I think it's great. My dog's looking forward to the dog walk park, but he doesn't walk far. I put him in a wagon.
Any questions, comments? Yeah, Mr. Franklin.
No, Mike, one thing I wanted to ask you about restrooms. Right now, we have Potash Lake up there, and they have a boat ramp that you can put your boat in there. People come up there and they fish. The state stocks it with trout. But to this day, these people are going to the bathroom there on the paths and everything else. You know, the animals don't use paper. But there are barrels put out, but people still don't do it. Most of us guys that used to fish it, we had the Oakland Rod and Gun Club, we still go down there. We clean it up ourselves for the most part. But I didn't hear anything here about bathrooms.
It is in the plan, I'm talking about here, it is in the plan for we would have porta potties. We budgeted in porta johns and other things that we budgeted that really don't think right now, but we have porta johns around the parking area and on the pleasure land side, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, another thing that, I go over to Quonic, and they have a dog run over there. I don't know if you know where that one is, right? That's over there in the green, that's a green, is that a Green Acres or something or whatever, in the industrial park? And they have a porta potty over there for people to use, because there's like, on a Sunday when I go over there, there's probably, 30, 40 people sometimes, between there's a range over there, a pistol range, and there's a dog park. So, they have a porta potty there. And, they have a swing set and a whole kiddie area, a place over there. They put the dog park in, and the police shoot, and they have a pistol range over there that they use, and people from, the whole area use it at the same time too, a bunch of clubs. But, they have their porta potty there, so, most everybody's pretty good about it. You don't see people going, but I know what you're talking about, in the woods and, rivers and stuff like that. And I even get mad because a lot of people come from out of town, and they're throwing garbage all over the place, and they just don't care. You go to like Cal's, when Cal's was open, they always had his name on the worm box or something like that, You walk down the riverbank and what do you see? You see that, there's the empty containers laying there and everything, so,
He does, he goes down and cleans it up.
yeah, well, that's good. I don't throw stuff, so. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike.
Here we go again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if we're hogging the mic, but just things come to head. You guys, if you get a chance, get on the phone to the city of Passaic. I worked in Passaic for 30 years. They just did a skate track there. You want to find out where they got the funds from. Okay, so give a call there and find out what they've done and how they went about pursuing it. If they approved it there, they're going to approve it here, I'm sure. The other thing that I spoke to both Mike and the mayor about was if you get a chance on Memorial Day, get down to Clifton and see what they've done there. And it might be an idea. You might want to do that around the park they sponsor for the veterans, depending on what theater you were in and at what phase you were in the military. They've got American flags, like you can't see the end, okay? And they each person would buy the peg, and they take the flags in and out, and it's absolutely beautiful. You have to go down there and take a look at that. So it might be another idea.
All right. Well, there are no other questions. Steve thanked everybody at the beginning, and I want to thank the committee who's been working beginning with us with this. Especially, I'd like to also thank the skateboarding, the kids, Brian. Also want to thank Betsy Stagg, Councilwoman Stagg, for her original work on purchasing this property. That's not being forgotten. Without the property, we wouldn't even be here right now, so I absolutely have to thank her. And next meeting we're going to have is February 26th, 8 o'clock here. We're going to do a little different. We're going to have hoping to have a couple of video where we're actually going to go to the site and show everybody what the area looks like in different spots. We have a presentation by Ryan on the dog park and on the skate park. And if this BMX thing works out, maybe they can do something. And if anything else comes along the line, any questions too, anybody wants to contact me, you can email me at coachguad, COACHGUAD, at AOL.com. You can see me around town, just grab me, everybody else does, and ask me about it or give me some other ideas. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the Oakland TV team. Mike's on. Yeah, Mike's still on.